All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rekakwadash. Giving double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone. Shalom to the hopefully elect. Shalom to all the brothers out here laboring in this truth with sincerity. Shalom to the few sisters that watch. It's coming back with another lesson. Really just, kind of laying backing off the apostle Har, and the brother Ariel Kaal, the elder, about these women, man. Because, the more and more you see these women as time goes on, the more and more wicked they get, So when you out here dealing with these women, you really kind of, taking a gamble, to be honest, because you never know what you're getting. I myself ran across some, and you like, damn, man, the value of women, has just, it's just gone out the window, man. You really would be better off being by yourself, to save yourself some headache, stress, because these women are really unrealistic, man. They're playing the role of a harlot, or they are harlots playing the role of a nice girl or a nice wife, so to speak. But in reality, man, they're just harlots, man. So, like Apostle Hall said, man, you just treat them as such. You go into it saying, man, she a hoe, man. What more is she? She's just a warm body, something to get your rocks off, man. That's really it. Because once you start to try to get into that mental, get into their minds, you about to be screwed up, man. You just got to know they don't have wisdom, which Yahweh Shem Shai clearly stated. The woman has not been imparted with wisdom. They just do what make their flesh happy, whether that be eating, going out, having fun, having sex, whatever, man. So, that's pretty much the basis of this lesson, which is gonna be short. But matter of fact, let's go into the scriptures, man. So we'll go to the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 25. And verse 25. It says, give the water no passage. Well, matter of fact, I'll start at, this whole chapter goes in. But let's see. We'll start at verse 24. It says, of the woman came the beginning of sin, and through her we all die. So nothing changed, man. These women are still out here sinning, not giving reverence to their husbands, let alone Yahweh Shem Shai, man. If she don't respect you, do you really think she gonna respect the Lord? Hey, man, brothers already know this, but, these worldly people, man. If your woman is disrespecting you, clearly she has no reverence for the Lord. Because we know that the head of the man is our Lord Yahweh Shai. And the head of our Lord Yahweh Shai is the Most High Yahweh, man. So she has no reference for Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. So it says, verse 25, it says, give the water no passage, neither a wicked woman liberty to gad abroad. And that's what you're saying. These women are out here, man, going on these girls' trips, just being harlots freely, until Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai start pouring out this judgment upon these people. Then we're going to see a whole different story. Then we're going to see a whole different attitude, The humbleness is going to kick in. And that, hey, we right here, man. We right here. Let's see. Let's Salakia. Let's go to the book of Ecclesiastes. And these are scriptures, we are familiar with. It goes to the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, and verse 26. It says, I find more bitter than death the woman, whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands as bands. Man, because these women, they really don't have love for you like that, man. They don't. They're just living in the moment. You could tell, as soon as you do something to make them happy, they're happy 10, 15, 20 minutes, at the max an hour. And then, back to the normalness, the bitterness. I always say, man, you go to the moon and back for these women, bring them a rock from the moon. They're going to be happy for probably an hour, and then it's going to go back to the same old thing, man. So, hey, man, myself personally, I'm over that making a woman happy thing, because first of all, if you got to depend on somebody else for your happiness, you lost anyway. So, that's where a lot of people go wrong, trying to please their woman, make them happy, just to keep peace in the house. But hey, if you want to be unpeaceful, you want to go that route, let's go. Hey, it don't matter to me, because just like I found you, I could find somebody else, man. That's just the bottom line, man. It's women out here in abundance, and if you want to just spend a couple dollars, man, and get you a woman, man, do it. 9 times out of 10, if you got one anyway, you paying them anyway, man. So that's just it, man. So let's see. Moving on. It says, whoso pleases the Most High, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, shall escape from her. So we doing the will of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, man. So these women can't play games with us, man. We don't think like that, man. We don't think with our little head, so to speak, man. We ain't moved by pussy, man. If it ain't doing the will of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, it's not gratifying, man. We're doing the will of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. That's where we get our pleasure at. So a woman, man, you just really, just not being, graphic on that, man. You just a warm, more situation to get into at the time, man. And outside of that, what we really need you for. And it's just being truthful, man. These women have been propped up to think they're above a man. They've been propped up to think nothing goes on without them, which is totally wrong, man. So we're going to continue to serve the Lord, and if we had, I know myself, if I had this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, it would have saved me a lot of trouble in the past when dealing with women. A whole lot of stuff that I went through, I wouldn't be going through, man, because I would understand that this woman is less than me. Why would I stoop to her level? Or why would I even deal with this particular person, It says, but the sinner shall be taken by her, and hey, we all been taken by some woman, some form or another, man, before we came into this truth. But now we've been enlightened. We understand what's going on. So, man, hey, these women make these demands. You can't see me unless you do this. You said you was going to do this, but, holding, holding the coochie, as a bargaining chip. But you can't do that no more, man, because we don't care, man. We don't care. If you don't want to give it up, man, we'll go somewhere else. All we want we'll just do it out, man. Go read, go study. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, this wasn't Apostle Hall. He said it all, man. So we'll just go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 25, and we'll drop down to verse 24. Because, hey, man, it's a whole nother world out here, that brothers probably don't know, or you know what I'm saying, I didn't know, but just dealing with people in the world, man, you understand, it's a whole lot of harlots out here, a whole lot of harlots, like real harlots that ain't getting paid, they just having sex, man, which is crazy, all manner of sex, man. You got all kind of sex clubs here, in Atlanta, that's strictly for that, man. You just go there to hook up. So what kind of women are these, man? These are the same women that's hooking up, but then you see them out in public or at their jobs, they're all professional. They got their suit on, they think they run the show, but then they leave and put the harlot clothes on, man. So, we over that, man. We over that, man. We far ahead of, trying to get a piece, man. We far ahead of that, man. Hey, brothers have their desires, but you ain't gonna do no backflips and cartwheels and do all this and that just to get it. If you don't want to give it, you don't want to talk, then move on. We moving on to the next, man. That's how it rolls. That's how it goes. But we'll get one more, man. Let's go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 24. And it says, it is, Salaki, chapter 25 and verse 24. It says, it is better to dwell in the corner of a housetop than with a brawling woman in a wide house. Let's go to NLT. It says, it is better to live alone in the corner of an attic than with the quarrelsome wife in a lovely home. Yeah, because you ain't going to have no peace, man. We're at a point now, we know what's coming. So we try to get peace where we can. We're constantly stressed, constantly catching hell here in Babylon the Great. And a quarrelsome woman, a brawling woman, will just add to that stress, man. And with the sensitive work that we're doing, pertaining to doing the work of the Lord, the will of the Lord, man, we don't need no distraction, especially no negative distractions, So, Lord willing is edifying. I just watched that video and, got, inspired to do this lesson. Lord willing is edifying. And, we don't bash, sisters, man, but, this is just, PSA for the brothers out here, man, So that being said, I want to constantly give our praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rekakwadash, Shalom.